With Valve dropping a lot of updates, a couple cases starting to pop off and everything else, today we're going to be breaking down if it's a good time to buy. Now, a lot of things can influence the CSGO investing market, whether this is Twitch's ban on gambling sites, so people are going to be opening up CSGO cases, or just general influential people. We're exactly seeing that with the Chroma cases, the Gamma cases, and the Spectrum cases all starting to pop off in price due to a couple different things. The Chroma cases are obviously due to Dr. Disrespect, and the fact that these Chroma cases have always been a little bit undervalued compared to the knives they're going to produce. SkinSwap is today's sponsor, and they're also sponsoring you with a free bonus for signing up with the first link in the description. They're the premier place for CSGO and Rust skins with a massive trading site and a top-of-the-line marketplace, offering you the most competitive rates out there and a massive 40% bonus when you're using that link in the description. Combine that with their top-of-the-line selling feature with many payout options and their trading feature legitimately taking you just about a minute, and there's no reason not to sign up with that first link in the description. The Gamma case is looking like some of the most desirable cases to open up right now just because of the way the knives look in CS2. I mean, in my honest opinion, I think they look extremely and unusually good, and the Spectrum case is following a very similar suit in the fact that you got those Butterfly Ruby, Butterfly Sapphire, which have always been an area of high interest, but even more so with the possible CS2 on the rise. However, this is really interesting because generally speaking, cases have not been doing too much. If we want to look at some of the cheaper cases, we can see that they have relatively speaking stagnated. Now, this is not something that's bad, and in my honest opinion, I think this is a rather decent thing considering there is nothing absolutely crazy going on inside of the CSGO market right now. If we want to look at unboxing numbers, there was about average for last month, with being about 1 million per day if we include Anubis packages, and just around 850,000 without, which is not a bad number by any means. If we want to compare that, that's pretty much exactly what we saw in February before we saw all of the hype for CS2, and that's a really strong number. If we want to look at the past months before that, you can see that obviously that is one of the better months, and it's not something that I would be ashamed about in any way. Now, obviously, if you're looking to buy, that's a decision for you. However, in my personal opinion, looking at the case market, I don't think it's going to get any cheaper. It depends on what area you're looking at. If you're talking active duty, don't even look at it. But if we're talking about these rare cases, and especially some of the ones that are starting to go up a decent amount just because they've got the influence right now, I don't expect anything to change on that front. We're still going to see a lot of big influential people opening up the Chroma cases, the Gamma cases, and the Spectrum cases, because those are the most exciting cases to open that are not extremely expensive. You can go ahead and unbox a $20,000 knife from them, and it only costs you a couple dollars plus the key, which is not that expensive when you compare it to some of the most expensive cases. And even talking about some of the cheaper cases, we're not seeing a whole ton of growth there, but I still think that the opportunity is still relatively the same. Case unboxings, in my opinion, have a very strong possibility to increase over the next couple of months, and I would say there's not going to be too much benefit if you're trying to hold out for a lower price point. Obviously, you can do what you want, but in my personal opinion, I don't really see cases getting much cheaper, especially some of the cheaper ones. We can look at the most expensive cases, they're stagnating, the cheaper ones are stagnating. It's on a path for potentially a very strong increase in the near future. Now, talking about a Paris investment, it's definitely up to you. However, there are a couple factors that you're probably not considering. The first of which is Paris is theoretically going to end in about 17 days, or at least that's the time that Valve has given. Therefore, we want to be done investing by that point. However, if you think that currencies are not going to get any stronger, it could actually be to your benefit to go ahead and hold off a little bit. That's because a lot of currencies that Valve has updated are now down to 23 cents once again. These are major currencies such as the Australian or the Japanese yen. These ones are things that people realistically buy with, and they buy commonly with. Therefore, we could see buff prices drop another cent or two, or we could just see general market prices decrease slightly. Nothing to the extent that we were seeing before where capsules were able to be bought, at least right now, but it's always a possibility. Now, for me personally, I'm not 100% worried about that specifically. Just as long as we don't see any major currency issues, at least at this point moving forward, I'd be content at buying whatever the current market price is at that time, just because you're not going to be always able to get the super cheapest price point, and as long as it's not a widespread issue, I really don't see too much of a problem with it. Some currencies are always going to be cheaper, and some are always going to be a little bit more expensive. Now, if you are a strong believer that Valve is going to release CS2 with some major update to go along with that, whether that's an operation or a brand new case, now would be the most advantageous time to go ahead and hop into some of those investments, or at least start looking. That's because if we want to talk about filler skins are sitting at a pretty decent low, and they usually pop off really quickly when we see an update where they actually have some practical application. Combine that with the fact that they could actually be removed depending on if you think Valve is going to come out with a brand new drop pool, which if we want to look at the current drop